So almost in walk again, came 2 millimeters away from severing my spinal cord and not knowing what the recovery would look like. And the plan was by 45, we would call a soft retirement, right? Where I'd still run my business, but it wouldn't be 80-hour weeks, right? It'd be more like 30, 35 hours. When this thing happened on the 17th of February, I just went, what are we waiting for? What is the purpose of life? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What do I think I can achieve between now and 45, and why 45? Like, all these questions.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Engineer. We've got Raj Sarin, the Managing Director of Equity Finance Solutions. Raj, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure, Darren. Thanks for having me.
No problem, mate. Now, I want to know, what gets you up in the morning? What mission are you on right now? Tell us a little bit about yourself and, what gets you out of bed, mate, to keep pushing forward.
Uh, yeah. So it's an interesting one, and until I really had to think about it, I didn't really have a real answer to give you. But because I'm just such a driven person, so it comes naturally to me, which is why I'm saying that. Um, but really, it's unfortunate that it takes certain life events for you to reflect upon who you are, these deep sorts of questions that you've just asked me, who you are, what gets you out of bed. This isn't the normal thing that most people, including myself, would generally think about. Um, so yeah, over the last sort of 18 months ish, I've spent a lot of time thinking about who I am, what my purpose is, what we're doing here, why we even exist, and legacy and that sort of thing. Um, and really, for me, it's about living now and being present. And how can I do more of that? So firstly, I've got to sort myself out, which I'm on a journey on, and we're achieving that. And then how can I empower others to understand that life, by the time you're 40, so I'm almost 40 in August, by the time you're 40, you're 50% of the way through. And that's not a gloomy way to look at it. That's just the reality of what it is for most people. So you've really got to take advantage now and really understand, well, what's the next 40 years going to look like, and kind of break it down. So if you're a driven person, you'll break that down into smaller goals, and you'll have your 1 year goal, 2 year goal, 5 year goals, and then you'll break that down daily if that's the sort of mindset you have. Other people aren't like that. So really my purpose now is to ensure that the next 5 years of my life are more fruitful, more productive than the last 10 years of my life. And when I'm talking about that, it's really about how can I live today and enjoy being in the moment, being present, those extra sunrises and sunsets with your loved ones. That's the stuff that counts. The traditional way that God, this is a guess, but I'd say 90% of the population live, which is, you get up, or let's just, at the beginning of your life, you're trained that you go to school, you might go to university or a trade, you get a certificate, you try and land the job, and then you try and build your career through that job, find a partner, buy a house, that's a security and safety net. And then over the next 30 years, pay that house off, have it paid off, be a diligent person, blah, blah, blah. And by the time you're 65, it's all done, and now you can start living life. This is the way, unfortunately, a vast majority of people live, or, they're just so busy in the day to day that they're just living for the weekends. And for a long time, that would have been me. And it's unfortunate that it takes big events, life changes, that make you question all of that. And then it's about, well, what do you do that's different, to break out of this cycle? Because I'm sure that a lot of people realize this, and that this isn't the way to be, but they don't know what to do about it. So my purpose really is to show them one way that I've been able to solve this situation for myself. And just, there are many ways to do it. I just know one way that's working for ourselves and for many people that I know. And yeah, that's my purpose. You know, that's what I want. I just want more people to be able to live presently.
I love that. I mean, without even breaking into what you do or what that unlock is, being present is so important. I want to drill down on that. I mean, and I probably note too that I know that you're traveling around Australia right now and running a business. What led you to this epiphany in life? And then tell us more about that unlock and how you do get people to be more in the moment and maybe give them that freedom to have that choice.
So on the 17th of February 2024, so that's what, 15-ish months ago, 16 months ago. I'm a avid mountain biker. By way of background, I've been on two wheels my entire life. In many ways, I'm more comfortable on two wheels than I am walking or running or jogging. I get on a bike, whatever bike, motor, non-motored, whatever it is, I'm really comfortable. I've spent my entire childhood riding bikes. I've raced motorcycles professionally. I've raced in the Australian superbikes. I've ridden dirt bikes my entire life, and then mountain biking as of 3 or 4 years ago. Unfortunately, I had a major accident on my mountain bike, which is funny enough, only at about 49 kilometers an hour. And I hit a tree, knocked myself out. Um, you know, this is not something I've talked about publicly. And for about 12 months, my parents didn't know that I had been through this because it was so serious and I didn't know what the recovery would look like. But anyway, I punctured my lung, dislocated it, broke almost all my ribs, collarbone. Those were sort of the main ones, but there were a lot of other, probably the most major one was that I broke my back in four places, which is my internal vertebrae had internally collapsed. So I had spinal fusion surgery performed, and I still have two plates in my back and 10 screws holding five of my vertebrae as one single vertebrae. So I have no movement through the middle of my back anymore. I haven't been able to ride a motorbike since. Day to day looks normal. However, it's scary, mate. Like at 39 to go through this is very scary. And, I got within 2 millimeters of my severing my own spinal cord. So the surgeon, whose name was also Raj, said to
That'd
me,
be right.
yeah, that's right. Mate, he was about my age. I said to him, you sure you know what you know? No offense, but you've done
Yeah.
this a few times here. And he goes, mate, don't worry, I do three of these a week. Anyway, I was at Royal North Shore because I got chopped straight in from the Central Coast, 250 k's an hour straight into the Royal North Shore. Was there in about half an hour and straight into surgery. So almost in walk again, came 2 millimeters away from severing my spinal cord and not knowing what the recovery would look like. And there's all this post-surgery stuff that I'm going through now. The plan was that, I've been investing in real estate fairly long now. Started off in my 20s, and the plan was by 45 we would call a soft retirement, right? Where I'd still run my business, but it wouldn't be 80-hour weeks, right? It'd be more like 30, 35 hours. And when this thing happened on the 17th of February, I just went, what are we waiting for? Like, what is the purpose of life? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What do I think I can achieve between now and 45, and why 45? Like, all these questions that I just thrown a number out because, and yeah, anyway. So I just went, why 45? Why not now? What's stopping me from doing what I'm doing now? Because look, COVID was good for our business in that, it streamlined the banks. Banks are archaic, massive institutions. The oldest company in Australia is Westpac, 200 something
I
years
know
old.
that.
Yeah. To get a bank to change policy and procedure, impossible. I worked for them for 13 years. It doesn't happen, and it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to change one little thing. Anyway, they went digital. Remember, you had to sign loan documents manually, do everything manually. It's now
Yeah.
digital. That was a massive change. So that and other changes like that impacted my business. Now with Starlink, thanks Elon Musk, you can think of him what you do, but I'm on Starlink right now and I have about 200 Mbps coming through. At my house in Brookvale, I had about 50 on a good day. So I've got
Ah,
3 times that remote. And I could, the more remote you get, the better it gets. So all these little things together. And I started thinking, well, why not now? Why later? And we tested it out. So I took a month and a half off, built our business and systems and people and processes in a way that enabled us to not be at the office, right? So we can be anywhere doing what we do. And obviously, as buyers agents, we're national. And if we're in the areas that we're investing anyway, that's kind of a good thing rather than being tied up to an office in Brookvale where we weren't buying any property. So it kind of all just made sense. And I sat down with my wife and I said, why aren't we doing this now? Why don't we just go and see what happens? So it was, again, it takes a year to sort of plan these things. So we bought this really nice Y62 Patrol, did it up, bought a state-of-the-art caravan, which I'm in right now, which this is my office. It's a decent rig, probably better than the house I was living in, just smaller. And so this is what we do. We now travel. We're 7, 8 weeks in, and yeah, we've only made it up to the sunny coast from Sydney. So doing it very slow, and we'll probably be here for a couple of months yet.
so I'm well across the why. I can see the purpose. I can see the catalyst. I mean, what a story in life and a moment to say, I need to change now, and also to do it. Tell me, how do you give people the freedom to maybe dream that they could do something like you right now?
See, I can really relate to this because this was me not so long ago. I've only been investing in real estate for about 15 years, and I can remember my first property transaction. I can remember the feeling, and I go through all the time helping people that are investing for the first time. I had one yesterday, really nervous, and you could see the anxiety building up as you got closer and closer and closer to pulling the trigger on it. I've seen this fog, and I've been through this fog, and I realize that everyone is very good at what they do. Like we have, some very competent people that will go to a buyer's agency, pay them money to do what they do because they know that they do what they do best.
Yeah.
So for someone like that, they just don't understand this world, right? They don't understand banks, lending policies. What must we do here? What are the legal implications if this happens? What's a cooling off? And then you multiply that across the country, and every state has its own laws, its rules, what you can say, can't say, how you negotiate, this, that, and the other. And that's just the real estate world. And there's the finance world, which is again very, very complex, depending on your situation, life circumstances, whether you have kids, whether you don't, whether they go to private schools or not, whether something as simple as should you take a personal loan out to buy a car? Should you get a novated lease? Should you pay for that in cash? Should you put that against your home loan? All these things impact your ability to invest in
Yeah.
whatever asset class massively. And there's no one other than a very good broker that will tell you this. And a lot of times people do it retrospectively. So like an accountant, they've already done what they've done. You go to them at the end of the year, like in in 3.5 weeks, you go to the accountant and you go, right, this is what I've done. And the accountant's looking back 12 months. So there's not that many changes that can be made, but the smart people, the good accountants, they're looking forward
Yeah.
1 or 2 years, and they're planning for the future. So the past isn't as important. You've done what you've done. It is what it is. It's very hard to unwind these things. Usually there's massive tax implications to doing things. So people just don't do it. So that's what I've learned this by building my own portfolio myself, making the mistakes, buying the dud properties, getting tangled with finance, and I work for the big four banks at this point in time, and they wouldn't lend me money, but a bank next door, like across the road on St. George's Terrace in Perth, would lend me money. So CBA would lend me money when Westpac, the bank that I work for, wouldn't. It didn't make no sense. This was 2010, 2011-ish.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering, well, why is that? What is different? There was nothing different about my situation. Why would one bank do it and another bank said no? And I just realized it was just about how they interpreted my payslip, the bonus income that I
The
had, the new job,
metrics.
that the
Yep.
metrics involved within my world. And my world was my world. It was the same thing. And this got me thinking that everyone will hit this capacity that I've hit. Because if I'm driven, I'm doing this at a young age. I'm trying to get out of the rat race. Um, Everyone's going to come across this. And then as my career advanced, I started, as time went on, everyone was hitting the same barriers I was. And so, really, from my own perspective, I wanted to figure out how do I shine some fog lights into the fog so that we can see a little bit further and we can plan better. So we're
Yep.
not being really reactive to the stuff flying at us. We know what's going to come at us and we're making some strategic moves. And that's what really helped me. And, I find this very liberating. So to bring this back to the real world, people could be making a decision to go, let's take a holiday in December. But can we afford $15,000 to go to Europe and take our two kids with us?
Mm.
What I have done for myself and what I help people do is, whilst it's massive, it's like that overarching plan. It helps you make these life decisions that just make you feel better being present. And then you can go, yeah, I can take that. But right now, sitting today, you can make a decision about December, or, just one example, but you can make many life decisions like this because you have a plan, you have an understanding of how you're going to execute it, and potentially you've got someone that's helping you execute it. So you're not by yourself. And that's powerful.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I've been through this stuff myself and I've helped so many people through it. And I get a massive when I can see someone just go, oh, okay, cool. So I could always do it. I just didn't know how. Go like, yep, you could. And few pivots and you're there.
Yeah, I mean, I just for the listeners, I think, very detailed in response. So for very high level, we're talking buyer's agency, mortgage broking, but also some like property advisory.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
That sums it
okay.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
helps because I think that's what people want to understand is I could see the unlock. I could see, the importance for people, getting people to understand their capacity. And then, yes, the learnings that you've had, must be super critical to be able to allow you to know what those things are to unlock those things for others. Yeah, I mean, I love what you do, that access to information and knowledge. And a lot of people don't know what they don't know. At least my view is a lot of people don't know that they could buy a property if they structured their finances in a way, or they could access some of the property if they knew how to present the information, or there are other lending options other than banks, because a lot of people just go, oh, it's just banks. So I think, having that opportunity to provide that knowledge and power must be an amazing feeling to unlock for your customers.
Yeah, that's right. And ourselves. It started with us first and then progressed on to I just went, this is, I say this to people as well. Like, if you're passionate about something and if you're good at something, then work isn't work. It will just come naturally. And
Yeah,
if you can figure out a way, if there's a need for it and you can monetize it, then that's nirvana. And I'm really fortunate to work in an industry that I'm genuinely very passionate about. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else. I don't
yeah,
want to do anything else,
yeah,
because I don't have a real world passion for anything else as much as I do and it's not real estate, right? I'm not passionate about real estate. People might say, oh, you're passionate about real estate. No, I don't really care about the bricks and mortar or any of that sort of stuff. I've rented my entire life. I live in a caravan. Like, I'm
yeah,
not, that's not what drives me or gives me security or anything like that. Home is where I lay my head at night. It's just how I can live my life now, thanks to real estate. So that's just the
yeah,
the vehicle, and you could have many other types of vehicles as well, but it's about what it gives you back today, and
yeah.
it's time, right? You can't buy time, can you? So
No.
Yeah. So that's kind of the most powerful thing, is how it enables you to live your life today on your terms.
Yeah, it's an enabler, isn't it? So
Yeah.
tell me, how did you go from working at the big banks to then all of a sudden having your own firm that works with the banks? I'll call it like an intermediary, right? I mean, you are
Yep.
unlocking, you are an enabler. Yeah, how do
Yep.
you just make that transition?
Yeah, so it was exactly that. So in life I've always, and this is something from my parents, from other people that I've learned, that don't chase the dollars. Initially, when you're young, so straight out of university, I was 20 something, very early 20s. I went early. Um, as a 21, 22-year-old, you think you know everything, but really you know nothing. Um, and it wasn't luck. So there was some smarts about how I landed my break in Big Four. So I went to the bank manager's door and I knocked on his door. I waited outside for a good hour because he was in a meeting, and I said to him, David, can I work for you? This was just my local branch.
Wow.
And yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I still remember. And his name's David Barrett. He gave me my first break. I was still in university. This was my second year in finance, and it was full on. It was starting to get very complex and specialized. And anyway, I said, look, I need a job, because I was very afraid that I couldn't find a job after all my qualifications, because this has been the story of my family's life. They've been very overqualified, but hard for them to find jobs. So I thought this would be my life too. So it's like, okay, let's get a bit smart about this, go early. I ended up working casually as a bank teller for him. And that gave me my big break. Like David Barrett gave me my big break in Auckland at the Birkenhead branch, and I started working as a bank teller. And yeah, I end up then spending 13 years building a career with Big Four, just learning, and the pay wasn't great. I think it was an 18 grand a year or something when I first started.
Wow.
Wasn't good money by any means of the imagination. And even later on in my career, for the jobs that I was doing, I worked every single rung in Westpac and ANZ, right from retail, commercial, private, premium, business. I worked all the segments other than, I think, institutional and FX. I think I did everything there was really to do. The money wasn't great, but
Mm.
the learnings were amazing. The experiences, the people you met, even the internal politics. When you work for a big bank, you get to see what that's about. And for me, I hated it. Like, I am as straight up as you're going to find. Like, who you see, like what you see is what you get. I don't have a mind to, like, I don't have this way of saying the right thing at the right time to people. I just blurt out what I feel. That does not go well when you get higher up in organizations. It doesn't sit well with people. I think there's like that middle management doesn't sit well. When you get right to the top, they expect it. But in that journey, it doesn't work.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, there was lots of learnings for me through Big Four, but I think the main thing was I didn't prioritize earning money.
Yeah, I was just saying you have to learn before you earn. So it sounds like you went through the trials and tribulations to get where you are. Do you think that's a sign of how people need to progress to be able to go through those hard yards to get, that opportunity?
Look, if you're talking about whether or not you start a business up in your 20s, look, for me, there's this big statistic that, what is it, like 90 something percent of businesses fail within the first 2 years and things like this. And I think the reason for it is lack of experience, lack of maturity, lack of having done it. The benefit you get by working for other people is you get to see mistakes that they've made. You get to make mistakes, but not with your own money.
Yep.
You get to learn from so many other experiences along the way. And at this point, you're in your 20s. You really, like I said before, you don't know anything about anything really.
Yeah.
But the danger is, and especially with males, perhaps, is that we think we know. the reality is that we know that when we were 40, you look
Mm.
back and you go, man, at 20, I knew nothing, but I probably
Yeah.
had more confidence than I do today. So, so I think, yes, I think it's really good to go through that journey and learn and progress. And I never had any ambition at that point in time. I never thought that I will have, I'll be a director of a company and I'll run my own business and I'll do this and that. It was really just, I just want to learn. And
Yeah.
I'm still very curious and I
Yeah.
continue to learn. And then, I have, say, I've helped maybe hundreds, 600 people, whatever the number is. You get all that experience and then you are a better person uh, as a result of that.
Yeah.
So yes, I just think, look, for me, it was really good to have done what I did before I set up my business because I didn't come in learning how to read a set of financials or what is a BAS or what are my obligations or do I have to put tax aside? Like I didn't have to go through any of that learning. Like
Yeah.
I was maybe expert level at that already, having helped
Yeah.
hundreds of people and writing credit policies myself.
Yeah.
I was like ace at that. Like, so I came in with all this understanding of how a business works. And
Yeah.
then having run businesses for people before, I run billion-dollar businesses for the big banks. And then come from that knowledge and experience, and then working for smaller businesses along the way as well. So I will work for, some smaller businesses along the way as well. And there's very different experiences you can gain from that, a lot more autonomy, power, dealing with the decision makers, that sort of thing, versus being, in that big wheel. Lots of learnings. So I think it was perfect timing for me to do what I did, which is why business has taken off and I haven't made those mistakes because I've learned that
Yeah.
those aren't, I've made others and you're always going to make some mistakes, but those are fine. They're usually not the big, oh shit, bad mistakes. They're just small tweaks. Oh, okay, pivot, or this has changed, or we've got to move quickly and do this. And you
Yeah.
don't have to learn how to have a conversation with someone, and you don't have to learn sales or strategy. You've spent 15, 20 years learning it already. So you just
Yeah.
have
That's
to then
right.
up your, like, take whatever you've got, take that to the next level. And it's still really hard, right? As you know, to run
Yeah.
your own show is difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Business is tough, right?
Yes.
Um, so tell me, how do you take a client um, through a journey from short-term thinking to long-term thinking? Because a lot of people are like, I want to make a quick buck, and I've got to invest in this, I want to get my returns. How do you really educate your customers to think about the long term?
Simple as is just I just have to be honest with them, and I do have some people saying that, I've got a 3-year time frame to make some money, and I simply say this isn't the right vehicle to do that for you. And I just talk them through it, and they realize that really there is no guaranteed way to make a lot of money in 2 to 3 years. Certainly not real estate. Like it's the opposite in real estate. And you're right. It's an educational piece, and real estate is a very slow moving, high growth, but it takes 7 to 10 years and very low cash flow, like very low yield. I'm talking residential real estate. So it's not like that. People say to me, "Oh, I'd like to have $100,000 of passive income." Great. Who wouldn't? That's not going to happen in 2 years. That's not going to happen in three. It's probably not going to happen in five for most people. That's going to take 10 years of strategic planning, taking action, understanding the risks, mitigating all of that. And this is where I've built this business on that understanding, which has taken me my entire career and lots of learning and mistakes along the way. Is I don't focus on the asset. I don't focus on the property in itself, or it's not even about the actual loan. It's more overarching than that. It's got to be a life plan, just taking into account real estate as the vehicle, and then finance. You've got to understand finance because that is the key to unlocking. Most people will get to their owner occupier home and one property. This is 98 something percent of people. And there's about 2,700 people in the country that have over six investments.
Is that it?
2,700 out of 25 odd million. That's it.
Wow,
You could
that's
put
a
them, you
shocking
could put them
statistic.
put them here in the space that I'm in this caravan park I'm sitting in. It's a crazy number, but guess what? It's not because 2,700 people earn millions of dollars a year. It's because they know how to unlock finance. And I suppose before that, they have a mindset. Okay. So it is really mindset coaching, um, demystifying. Like, a lot of people are afraid of debt. Oh God, I don't want debt. I want to pay this off as quickly as I can. And I say that's the surest way of going broke. Pay off the debt as quickly as you can. They go, why? I go, great question. And I show them how the tax system works. We've just got this set of rules. We just have to understand what those rules are and then create a strategy that works in your situation. And this is why it's very um, interesting for me, because no two people are the same. It's very unlikely that you get exactly the same person with the same
Yep,
goals,
yep,
age, income, lifestyle, risk appetite. It's super rare. So I have to then help them understand all of this stuff, which takes hours, and then build them a roadmap.
yep,
And then the roadmap needs to be flexible because, okay, we've got kids now. All right, cool. So
yeah,
now our income's halved. And what do we
yep,
do? Oh my God, like these properties were costing us so much money. What do we do? We're in one income. Well, don't worry, because we knew that could be a possibility. We knew that you were planning to have kids. So it's a, I take this very, it's a very personal thing. And I'm very grateful to be involved because, I have a dozen clients that might have actually mentioned to me in one of our initial meetings that they were planning to have kids, and they hadn't even discussed this with the other partner. Like,
Ha,
it was one of the first conversations that they'd had about it, and it
wow,
was it was at that meeting because they can see that this life decision that they're going to share together can impact them,
yeah,
and I can help them navigate better, so they share it with me. So that's super powerful stuff, and this
mm,
is why I say I'm very I love what I do, because I get, like, how many people get to really get to know the people that they're dealing with at that level,
yeah,
and that's really awesome for me. Yeah.
yeah, that's so cool. And then further is how do you like property is such a personal thing. A lot of people like, I love this property and I love that balcony and the northern aspect and this window and all that. How do you take that personal, like really really deeper layer of intimacy out of property investing?
Yeah, so brilliant question. In my earlier days, I used to think that it's all about the numbers. You've got to strip emotion out. As I've progressed in my career and gotten older myself, I've realized that this is a human this is a human journey. It's not a, I don't know, it's not a multi-billion dollar company that you're just trying to strip out all the fat and get to the profit. That isn't what this is about. This is about, again, not the property in itself, but not the vehicle. It's about how do you live your life today. And there is an element of personality that needs to come into it, an element. It cannot be that I need 4 hours of sunshine falling on my washing line for this to be a viable thing for me to buy. It cannot be like that, right? So you've got to strip all that away, and I'll help a client understand that. But if they say, like, in 5 years' time, I can really see myself, or 5 to 7 years' time, I can really see myself living here, right? So I can understand that in that journey, there's going to be an element of personal touch. If it doesn't exist today, they want to be able to make some improvements to that property that makes it a livable choice for them in the future. And so long as that falls within the right markets and the right timing and cycles and things like this, then we can certainly, that is part of it. It's not about it's my way or the highway. It's about understanding, well, what does that work, and then bringing that back into their lives.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like the idea that you say, oh, is this somewhere where you'd live? Because it's a very easy question to answer. But, I see it, probably a lot in the development space. You know, you have your downsizers, you have your families, you have your first home buyers, you have your investors. Like there's just so many categories of buyers. And you'd always think a lot of people, you know, like you said, everyone's different. Some people want the numbers, some people want to like the aspect, someone wants to know that there's a school nearby. You know, everyone's got their own take on due diligence and what really is like the purpose and then the outcome. So I like that you still have a layer of personal touch because I think that's it is very important because you know people go buy something from a shop, whether it's a brand or whatever it is, either there's a need or there's a desire, and I would always say that something like investing is probably more on the you know the desire or the outcome, and tying back to what you said about roadmap, life plan. You know, I think if you can square all that away, you're obviously doing an amazing job at it.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I know I've had conversations before, and I just want to touch on it probably now is around, we did talk once and you mentioned that you're a bit introverted, and I wanted to tap into that because, you
Yeah.
know, I think understanding you, hearing you talk today, and that, you know, you say, oh, I'm an introvert. How do you work around that in your current role as a business owner, as someone that needs to talk to people all day, every day? I presume you're, you know, on the phone having meetings all day, every day. You have to have however many clients and all the conversations. How do you navigate something like that?
God, it's taken so many years, right? If I just dial back quickly, say 10 years ago when I started thinking about this stuff, or maybe it was only 7, 8 years ago when I started thinking about this stuff, I'd wonder why I was so exhausted every time. And I'm not big on networking events. I know I've come to one of yours and I enjoyed the day, but it exhausts me by the end of it. And it wasn't until I read some books around, I always thought I was an extrovert because I do once I get into a conversation, especially if it's a conversation that I'm passionate about, then I like to give a lot of value and knowledge that I've got or challenge beliefs and be challenged back. And this is exciting and invigorating for me as a person. However, to get to that point is quite a like I have to force myself to do it. Um, and it's about where, being an introvert or an extrovert I used to think it's about how easy it is to talk to people. And so I always thought, oh, I'm an extrovert because, this conversation's pretty natural, but it will exhaust me by the end of it. So the way I've learned to deal with it is not have back-to-back meetings. I have 2 meetings a day max. That's a busy day. I generally keep it to 1 meeting a day. And I'll give everything in that meeting, right? But I'll be exhausted. I'd need half an hour to recover after it. And it's
Yeah,
how you draw your energy. I think introverts, they wake up full of energy. I'm a morning person. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm buzzing, have a coffee, great. Let's go for a walk, swim, surf, let's get on it. And there's people that complete opposite of that. And by about 7 o'clock at night, I've well and truly plateaued.
toast.
Toast, completely toast. And the more interactions I have during the day, it takes away and takes away and takes away and takes away energy from me. So the way I've dealt with that is just knowing that that's who I am. And I think you shouldn't ever fight your personality type. Just learn to work within it. There's enough stuff that you fight daily. Um, don't fight yourself. Don't fight your body. Don't fight who you are. I have ADHD and ADD, and perhaps even some dyscalculia. Not sure, because back in the day they didn't have very many tests for it, and mum never medicated us for it. But short attention spans, this sort of stuff, and obviously working with numbers is a challenge. Six and nines look the same. Um, yeah. So I've learned to not fight what you're not good at. Just work with, it will give you a level of intensity above anyone else. So whilst you're not good at a lot of stuff, like I can't work out simple mathematical problems, but I can work out more complex ones in my mind. So don't fight it. Don't feel foolish for it. If you
Yeah.
can't work out 23 plus 76, don't worry. Like your brain is not wired that way. you will be able to figure out some really complex problems that most people need a calculator for, that in your mind somehow the puzzle just works. So
Yeah.
over time I've learned, okay, well, that's my limitation. This is my ability. So how do I just use my ability, create it, make it into a superpower, and let someone else deal with the stuff I'm not good at? Like,
Yeah.
this what people with ADHD and ADD, whilst they can't focus on anything for any given point in time, when they do get into something, they're into it.
Yeah.
And they're usually very good at it because they don't do anything else. You can't
Yeah.
multitask. Forget about multitasking. When I'm doing this, this world around me doesn't exist. So
Yeah.
that's a skill. Some people have to learn how to focus like that. For others, it just happens naturally. So
Yeah.
focus on what you're really good at. And obviously, the other stuff needs to be done. And this is where I will just find the right people to fill the gaps that I have, that they're very good at that, like accountants, bookkeepers, these sorts of people, very meticulous people that my entire industry runs on compliance. I
Mm.
suck at compliance. So someone's got to do it though. So have someone that has that skill set. And some people will love ticking boxes. They just love it. Me, I couldn't, yeah, it's just I have to do
Yeah,
it.
you're not a box ticking sort of guy. I get it.
No,
Lean into your strengths. And I like your take on superpowers. I talk about superpowers a lot. So, mate, that's super insightful. So thank you very much for that.
yeah, my pleasure, mate.
Raj, I've got to say, this has been super awesome for me. It's been so nice to hear about your journey coming out of the banks, what you do, the fact that you're in a caravan right now, running a business, all the people that you've helped, how you've got them to see about short-term versus long-term thinking, life planning, all of that. I mean, wrapping all that up in a bow and just seeing your enthusiasm is super awesome. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and mate, I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a genuine pleasure.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool, mate.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that podcast. Please like and subscribe. It helps us reach so many more aspiring engineering professionals and entrepreneurs. You can find us on LinkedIn, Spotify, and YouTube.